Hey rail fans and model railroaders, Penn Central 99 here, and today we're going to start to build the Helix for the new layout. Basically we're just going to take the 4x8 sheets that we had from the other layout, cut them in half down to 4x4s, and then use those for the levels of the Helix. As you can see, I've already got the wood laid out. I've got the two sheets stacked on top of one another, clamped down. I'm going to save time and effort instead of making two cuts. The blade's thick enough that it should be able to go through two half-inch sheets of plywood. The other thing you noticed, I've got a guide here. This guide represents the distance from the blade to the edge of the saw, and basically when I run that right down the guide, it's going to cut the plywood right in half where I want it. It's just a simple measuring technique. I'm working by myself, so I don't have as many hands to hold stuff. As you can see, I've got some containers out of the garage to help weight it down and hold it for me. So we'll go ahead and get this cut by ourselves. Don't need much help, just as long as we got things set up. One thing you need to take into consideration when you're working with tools, especially power tools, is one, use the right tool for the job. You notice here I've got plywood and paneling blade on there instead of regular circular saw blade. Also inspect your tools and equipment before you use them. If they're broken or damaged, you don't want to use them. One, it could cause injury or death, or two, it could ruin your project. The other thing, take safety into consideration. Safety glasses, especially when working with tools, is a must. It doesn't take much for something to go wrong and take all the fun out of what's going on. Basically, we're just going to cut this right down the middle. It should take a matter of seconds to do it, and then we'll have 4 4-foot by 4-foot pieces to work with for the Helix. Okay, now that we've got our sheets cut, we can go ahead and start drawing the radiuses for our cutouts, which are going to be 20, 22, and 24 inch. We'll go ahead and grab the template and get that started, and we'll be using a jigsaw for that. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw our radiuses, and what I did is I took an old wooden ruler, or yardstick shall I say, that I had, and I've drilled some holes in it to indicate the radiuses that we're not only using today but we might use in the future on other things. If you see here on this yardstick, I've got a hole drilled at the 1 inch mark, so all the other holes from that point on are just going to be added by 1 to get our radiuses that we're looking for. Example is, if you're looking for an 18-inch radius, you want to drill a hole at the 19 mark. If you're looking for a 22-inch radius, you want to drill it at the 23-inch mark. 24-inch radius, you want 25, and so forth. And as you can see, I've already got the holes drilled in my yardstick because I've used this before for other things. You can also see where I've pre-drilled the hole where the yardstick that is going to go in the center of the wood here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to move this and make our radiuses using a Sharpie pen. Another thing that I like with the pre-drilled holes that I made is this Sharpie pen. The tip of it fits right in that 7 32 inch hole that I drilled, so there's no play or there's no movement in that, so I'm getting almost a true radius when I draw my circles. Okay, as you can see, I've got the yardstick anchored in the middle there with a screw. That way it rotates on there and there's no play. And basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be drawing 3 radiuses right now. We're going to be drawing a 24-inch radius, which is the outside cut mark. We're going to draw a 22-inch radius, which is the track line, and a 20-inch radius, which is going to be the inner or inside cut line. So let's go ahead and get those 3 lines drawn. As you see, I just put that Sharpie pen in there and allow that to rotate, and as you can see, it's just drawing a radius on there for us, so we have something to go by for our jigsaw. Sometimes you got to move it back and forth a little bit. And as you can see, there's our outside cut mark for the outside radius, or the outer edge of the helix level. Now we'll go ahead and move this to our 22 inch. This is the center line of the track. And what do you know about that perfect lineup? One thing about drawing radiuses that you got to be careful of, you know, if you're like me in the past, when you've done it, your circle never matched up when you got done. Okay, the inside cut line or radius, which is going to be 20 inches. I think that worked out pretty good. Now we can get the jigsaw out and cut our lines. I'm going to leave these two stacked together and clamp down. The jigsaw should be able to make it through too. That way we're making as least cuts as possible. Okay, some of you might be wondering why I picked the radiuses that I picked. Well, first of all, I really didn't have a reason. I know they say the bigger the radius, the better. But I only have so much room to work with. And a 22-inch radius helix is actually 44 inches wide. When you put in some cushions outside the track line, or a marginal error in case of derailments, you're looking at a 4-foot wide helix. And like I said, I only have so much room to work with. So this is the center line, or the track line. This is the outside cut line, the inside cut line. And you know, using a piece of track just as a guide, you can see that gives me a little bit of a margin of error in case of derailments in the helix. So like I say, I'm limited on space, got to make it as big as I can, but I also got to keep it as small as I can. Okay, one of the other things, I know it's mentioned earlier about inspecting your tools and your equipment and making sure that they are not damaged and they're ready to go. The other thing is, if you've never operated tools, especially power tools, before, and you don't know what you're doing, don't do it unless somebody teaches you and instructs you how to do it, because it could really result in injury or death. So you need to be careful with it. So let's go ahead and get our outside edge cut here. I'm using a jigsaw with a wood blade. Okay, now to start the inside cut line, what I'm going to do, since there aren't any relief lines, I'm going to just take a 1/2-inch drill bit and drill a hole so I can get the blade of the jigsaw in there. Also, I'm going to start that hole away from the line. Okay, we now have our 4 layers for our Helix, and basically what they're going to do is there's going to be 4 inches of clearance in between each level. So what I need to do now is cut some blocks to start the Helix, and then after the first level each one's going to have 4 inches of space in between. Okay, I've got the first level of the Helix in, and as you can see at this point over here we got 4 inches of height in between the levels. I've got some blocks cut and installed at 90-degree points around the Helix for support. What I need to do is it's somewhat sturdy. What I need to do is get some track down on this level and do a test run on some of the locos and some of the cars to see how it does before I start putting the other levels on.